Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jim White, and this is session 5 with What's My Purpose Life Mastery Course 3.0. Session 5. By this time, you should have your homework completed, and it was from page 84 to 102 this week. And that was mass number 4, and that was the big one, fear. With the other 3 mass removed, and they are what? Mass number 1 was busyness. Mass number 2 was what? What will other people think? And mass number 3, am I blank enough? So as we proceed from week to week and we continue to drill down on each and every session, and especially this mass number 4, you know my favorite word by now, it's a big deal. Mass number 4 is just that. It's a big deal. So to continue our tradition of me going through each page and highlighting certain sections and reinforcing words and giving you a little history behind the words as I was writing in the book. Just look at 84. With the other, I say at the top of 84, with the other 3 mass removed, you have now reached the 4th reason. The 4th reason. And as you know, we got 5 mass involved here. The 4th reason why you have hesitated to follow your heart. And that is follow your heart, period. As you listen to these words, and as you follow along, which I encourage you to do, should have your book present, should be in a quiet space, all devices shut down, and just focus on the work and the words tonight. As always, we're scheduled for 90 minutes, but when we're through, we're through. I am doing the class remotely this evening, actually in Denver, Colorado. So I hope the technology becomes our friend this evening. So if we have any problems, that's what could be the issue here from the internet connection to the facility which we're broadcasting from. So there are 2 kinds of fear associated with your passion. As you know, I use passion and purpose interchangeably. And it's important to focus on those 2 kinds of fears associated with finding your passion and your purpose. First, and I see this over and over, and I've seen it for years. First, you may be afraid to know what your passion or purpose is. And that is true for a lot of people. They don't want to know. Why? Because once you know, you are then confronted, look at the words that I chose to use, with the responsibility to take action to follow your passion. Now, these words are so important. And as you listen to these words and as we start reviewing your homework, I want you to be totally honest with yourself and just call it the way it is. You can allow yourself to be passive only as long as you don't know what you want to do. So if you don't know, then you don't have to do anything. You can go through life without having to be committed to it. You can just breathe the air and just end up some point in time when we leave, and everybody's going to leave this physical body at some point in time. And what have you left behind? What is that legacy going to be? And if we have discussed many, many times, you get up every day for one purpose, and that's to create a quality of life that you're choosing for yourself and your family. Nothing more. You can allow yourself to be passive only as long as you don't know. That's called denial as well. As long as you don't know what you want to do. Most people want to be in control of their lives. Follow along with me. Yet few want to accept the responsibility. I remember when I was writing a section, how do I put it in such a way not to be offensive, but yet be straight in, I'm going to use the word straight in your face for you to say, geez, yeah, I want to be in control, but do I want to take responsibility? Most people do not want to accept that responsibility that goes along with it, and they use fear. Fear to avoid knowing. And I asked a question of you now, and as you were doing the homework, could this be true for you? Are you afraid to know the truth? And I know I've been doing this course for a lot of years, and I know because I get emails daily after each session where people will admit, man, this is getting just too tough because I'm having to make some decisions. I'm having to look at myself in the mirror, in my soul, and think, man, am I actually doing these things that are my true purpose? Now, the second type of fear occurs after you know. And that's very important for these two distinctions. After you know what your purpose is. Now, this is the fear that is associated with taking a specific action towards fulfilling your purpose, passion. Right? For example, you might need to go back to schools, what I used here, and you may be afraid to do so. In the space provided, write down as many of your fears, and this should be completed by now, as many of your fears as you can think of, and be honest with yourself as you possibly can. So, in this space provided that I give you here, and this should be done, and this is where you should be looking at that now, because this homework, again, should be completed, right? So, I asked you, I feel afraid to fulfill my passion because. What did you write down there? What is going on in your life today that's holding you back? That's holding you back. What's going on? Now, as we transition, as you transition over to page 85, now I'm going through types of fear. It's very interesting to just have these distinguish the types of fear. Now, most fear falls into these 5 categories. Now, it's really important that you follow these categories with me. Now, number 1 that I chose, fear of failure. So, we're having that mask that we're hiding behind, fear of failure. Well, if I don't try anything, I cannot be criticized. I may try and fail. I may try and fall short. I may not do it right. I may not know what to do. I may not have the skills that's necessary. I may make a mistake. That's the fear of failure. And believe me, everybody on the globe has these. Nobody's immune. Most people probably will not admit it to you, but we all have. So fear of failure. The next one is a big one, because I've experienced this myself in the past. Fear of success. Being overrun with success. Fear of losing friends. Develop a certain amount of affluence and not knowing how to handle it. We see this play out daily, specifically in professional sports. Most professional athletes, even though they make a lot of money, are broke within 3 to 5 years after they completed their careers. This fear of success is a big deal. As you gain, I'm going to use the word prominence or more skill, maybe referred to that, there's a responsibility that comes with that. You gain a profile, and you can become an easy target for criticism. So fear of success is also a big deal. So each and every one of you that's in the class, you may be live tonight, or you may be listening to or watching the replay. Whichever you're doing, I want you to really look at yourself, look at where you are in your career, where you are in your relationship, and see if this has been an issue in past. Probably has. So, mass number 4, fear. We say they have 2 types. Fear of finding out what your purpose is. Then once you do, then you got to do something about it. So it's easier to remain ignorant. Once you've done the work to find out your passion, and unfortunately I see this happen too long, the fear is then to do something about it. Then some of the things that can kick in is fear of failure, fear of success, right? So turn to your next page, page 86. Now this is also a real deal. I'll get hurt physically. That's another fear. The stress of it will make me sick. I see that a lot. And I've experienced it myself in past years. It may kick up my ulcers, my high blood pressure, all these good things. That's the reason, we remember in session 1 when we started off, there's 5 advantages of defining, then implementing, and living a life on purpose. And they are your financial life, your spiritual life, your relationship life, your mental and physical health, wellness, taking care of the body. I mean, that's something that I struggle with on a daily basis. So what did you insert here? Do you have a fear associated with anything physical? What is it? Then the other one, I'll get hurt emotionally or from a psychological standpoint. They won't like me, for example. I will be rejected, or I will be excluded, or I will be embarrassed. All of these things are types of fear that can get in your way as you continue to do the work of defining the purpose. I'll make a fool of myself. Well, I do that quite often. My mate may leave me. All of these things are real fears. Now, my fears of getting emotionally and physically hurt. What did you insert there? What did you say? And then this is the big one. I see this one kicking up all the time. The fear of the unknown. There's no guarantees in life. That unknown is a big deal. And as we become more seasoned in life, and I know we have a lot of people in the class that's in their 20s and 30s, and I know we got some in their 80s, and we got some in their 60s. We're all faced with fears of unknown. Big thing, the fear of the baby boomers, which are 76 million baby boomers in the United States alone. The biggest fear of that unknown is, oh God, my body's going to fall apart, or I'm going to be a burden to my loved ones, or geez, my career's over with. What do I do next? or geez, my career's over with, but uh, I didn't get ahead of the game to be able to have enough monetary or affluence to be able to not to be a burden and to do this. All these things are real. They're real. They're real. So the fear of the unknown. So what did you insert there? Now, everybody in the class, you know how we do this by now. We take one section at a time. There is no cutting ahead of the line. There is no get rich fast schemes. There's none of that. It's just taking a serious look and doing each page at a time and being honest with yourself, probably for the first time ever, to be able to lay these things out. And this work is yours. It's confidential. Unless you choose to share this with your spouse or your partner, it's yours. This is your diary. This is your foundation of setting your life story. There's so many benefits for this work that you're doing. And I am so proud of everybody that's in this class that keeps showing up week after week, because this work is not easy. I never have said it's easy. It is not. But for you that keep showing up and doing the work and asking questions after the sessions, and as everybody knows, there's no requirement to ask a question live. There's no requirements here. But what I want to make sure that you're doing is make sure that you're doing the work. And that's the reason, remember in session 1, I asked you to sign, what was it, page 7? What did I say about page 7? Page 7 was a contract that you signed, and I said it's the most important contract that you'll ever sign in your life. And I also say on that page, it's what, 200 words or less, right? And I say, you must have utmost integrity in and for yourself if you're going to gain the maximum benefit for this course. And if you're not going to do that, then you need to get out. You don't need to be part of the process. And people say, well, that's kind of straightforward. I think everybody knows me. Yeah, I'm not sugarcoating. I want you to be able to do the work that's going to make you the best you that you possibly can. And this gets into the people trying to fix people, right? We can't fix people. We can just give up. We can be supportive. And understanding the fear on page 87. Now, let's drill down on this a little bit more, because it's really important to recognize your fear. And this is what I wanted to accomplish when I was designing this page and with the next couple of pages on understanding fear. So follow along. I start off on the top of page 87, and I said, fear is an uncomfortable feeling. Consequently, people often try to hide their fear or to overcome it. Now, I go and I say, but like any other emotion, and this is what's important, any other emotion, fear doesn't respond well to these tactics. It's your emotion. It works better to understand and to befriend the fear. That's the word. I want you to highlight that. Befriend your fear. How do you do this? How do you befriend your fear? Well, you begin by recognizing fear as soon as it arrives. It's going to talk to you. Recognize it. To do this, recall one of the fears that stop you from doing what you really wanted to do. We all have them. We all have these fears that stopped us in our tracks, right? Once you have the feeling in mind, and that's the key here. That's what I want you to have, the feeling in mind. Answer the questions that follow. Now, it's critical as you look at this, the feeling in mind. Where do you feel the fear? Now, I'm drilling down on the body parts here now, right? For example, Fear lives in some people's stomach. When they get that sensation of butterflies in their stomach, that's an emotion that's going on. They know it's present. For some, it lives in their legs. You have people whose legs are shaking. The expression knee knocking describes their fear. Now, your opportunity, I say, now describe where your fear leads. What we're doing here is for you to really understand what fear is and how you can recognize it when it starts presenting itself as you continue down this journey. So on page 88, very interesting exercise. And I remember, man, I worked on this thing for months. And what I wanted to do, it's 88, it's pretty much a blank page, right? There's a rectangle that I have drawn here. And your instructions were this. If you were to draw a picture of your fear, what would it look like? How big is it? What is the color? What shape is it? Is it abstract? Draw a picture of your fear in the space provided. Like I said, I remember struggling with this over and over, and edit after edit after edit, with trying to put something together so we could work, and it kind of brings us back in we're kids, right, with crayons and coloring and all that. So we're still, even as we get older, we're still kids at heart some way, hopefully, that we still have that within us. So this is what I've asked you to do. And people get so creative that, and then you start recognizing it, and then you start befriending it. That's what we're looking to do here. So you completed that. Then, as you know by now, you are not to move to the next page until you complete the previous page. We've all gone through school and all of our studying and all of our tests. We like to jump to the end of the chapter, right? Well, as you know by now, this is not one of those deals. You cannot move forward until you complete the work at hand. Now, page 89. What does your fear say? I've had people say, boy, Jim, this is really weird. Really weird stuff. Well, it may be. But again, what are we doing? We want to recognize fear when it starts to grab us, because sometimes people will allow fear to just paralyze them and allow you to get in a space that you cannot move forward. And I don't want that for you. So what does your fear say? List as many of its statements as you can. This is especially important because it is often what fear says to you that prevents you from taking action towards what you really want. Highlight, highlight, highlight. Once you learn what fear typically says to you, you can learn to talk back. Some people, fear says things like, you'll be sorry, don't do it. And unfortunately, we have certain abuses that will start kicking in when this fear is so out of control, because we want to dumb the emotions, right? And we got to be careful of that. And like I said, I've been down that road as well. My fear says what? How does your fear taste? What's it taste like? There's a certain taste about every emotion that we have. Now, also talked about in week 2, as we get around week 8 and week 9, I'm going to start doing some more work around reprogramming the brain, right? We talked about that, how perceptions, and I'm going to show you some parts of the brain, how we can rewire the brain. Now, this work that we're doing is in preparation of doing a rewiring of the brain. And it can be done regardless of what your age is, right? Now, well, I'll put a qualifier in there. There are unfortunately, certain diseases that would prevent us from doing that, Alzheimer's and those type of things. Actually, my worst fear. How does your fear taste? Be as descriptive as you can, rather than saying bad. try to be more precise. For example, my fear tastes like a bitter 50-mile-an-hour wind whipping. I think you get the. I don't know where I came up with that. What did I say? My fear tastes like bitter as a 50-mile-an-hour wind whipping at my face on a 30-degree Vermont winter morning. Where in the world I ever come up with that? I have no idea. But I think it's pretty descriptive, right? So how does your fear taste? How does, page 890, how does your fear smell? How does it smell? How does it smell? Once again, be as descriptive as you can in this process. Be very descriptive. For example, the smell of my fear is nauseous and it clings. So once you do these exercises and you get it in your brain, you're going to recognize it. That's what we're doing. We're building on each and every session to give you tools and to allow you to have freedom to make these choices for yourself. Not for Jim White, not for your classmates, not for your spouse, not for anyone, but for you. And I know you've heard me say this over and over and over. It's not to say that you're going to be irresponsible either. You're not. My fear smells like. Now, bottom of page 90, I say by completing these questions, you may discover that your fear is not as awful as you thought it once was. This is how we do it. This is how we do a reprogramming of the brain. Or I should say, on the other hand, if it is truly a monster, now that you can see it clearly, that's the key, see it clearly, you will be able to cope with it more effectively. That's what we're doing here. Now, we have people that's in this course, this is their third, fourth, fifth time. This undertaking takes a lot of courage, and you've got to be at a time in your life ready for this stuff. Some of them may not be ready, but what the great thing about it, we keep coming back. You have a foundation. So you're going to be ready. There may be things going on in your life that may prevent you, stopping you from moving forward. That's the reason we have the course so condensed into this 9 weeks, and then we got the 3 weeks to bring it all together. It's important that you stay on top of the homework each and every week. And I know, I get emails all the time from you. I got a family, I got a job, I run a business, I do that. Yeah. We all have that stuff, right? So, you're in here to really understand what you should be doing for the remainder of time that you have left in this physical body. Then we need to take it serious. Now, page 91. And this is a huge, huge deal. Letting go is scary. And I'm not immune to that, right? Letting go is scary. Fear occurs when you live in the future. Get this. When you live in the future instead of the present. Man, that's when I work on daily. When you worry about what might happen, look at the fears you listed above. Aren't they each related to something that might happen in the future? Now, I want to be very clear. And the people like, I've got a lot of people in the class that's also in our coaching and our circle of success and our travel clock highs and the other consulting work that we do together. And you know that I am absolutely death on setting goals and having a clear vision and being accountable and all those things. That's the future. Then these words may be, Jim, you're kind of talking out of both sides of your mouth. Not really. What I really want you to get is if we are thinking about the future and it allows us to become paralyzed is what I'm talking about. So you're not going to achieve a vision if you become paralyzed. And I hope you're getting that distinction there, right? So got to do as much as you can to live in the moment. Yet to get to the future, we also need to let go of the present. I'm saying that two different ways, right? Fear is an emotion that accompanies the process of letting go, right? It's an emotion for that process of letting go. It is a sign that you're growing. But to grow, something's got to die. Something's got to give way. The more attached you are to what you have, who you are, what you believe today, the more fear you will experience. As people become more successful and more fluent, they become a fear of losing all of the things. It's just stuff. Do we like good stuff? Yes, we do. We don't like great stuff. But it's be very clear, as I said, we're not going to take that stuff with us. It's what we're going to leave behind, that legacy that we leave behind. Nobody's going to remember how many Rolls Royces you left behind. Maybe there'll be a few, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Now, again, I'm not saying I like beautiful things too. But over the course of my life, when I was early on, I wanted all the toys. I had all the toys, but it's not important to me anymore. I don't need all the toys. What's important to me is to make sure that I am doing my design purpose. The more attached you're to what you have, to who you are, to what you believe today, the more fear you will experience. Now this is really key here. Follow along very closely. If you are invested in believing that you are smart, bright, and quick to understand, then you will probably experience fear at the invitation to grow into areas in which you have little knowledge. I see that all the time. That's the reason I see a lot of business people, especially family-owned businesses, and that they kick back, trying to get out of that comfort zone to go learn a different technique or become more innovative or stay current with technology and stuff that's happened, because they want to be the expert in a little bit, but it's moving at the speed of sound. And if you're not staying current with that, man, it's going to be a challenge for you. You'll need to let go you'll need to let go of being knowledgeable and take on the role of learner. You heard me say this. I am a lifelong student. I am inquisitive. I am curious about most subjects. That's what keeps us young. I love being a student. And it said each and every time I go through this class or I teach this class, I learn something, and I'm the author of this. I see it different. I'm in a different space. I'm in a different energetic space. I learned something. This course does as much for me as it does for you, even though, again, I am the author. Because I connect to the words in a different way. Because I can reflect back on the time that I was writing it and designing it. And I wanted a body of work that would be sustainable. And a lot of you know that I started putting this thing together in the 90s, early 90s. I haven't changed a whole bunch of it. I haven't changed any of it. And then slapped a cover on it in 2007 and published it. Okay. So it's look here. You'll need to let go of being knowledgeable and take on the job of the learner. But if you're attached to your self-image, you will be afraid of becoming a student. You've got to become a student. If you are attached to your self-view of yourself as in control, you will be afraid to let go of control. If you're afraid of that, it will crash and burn. No way. The beauty part about it, there are solutions. And I know we've got a lot of people in the course that we're doing consulting work with, right? And you're probably listening to think I'm talking directly to you. Well, I probably am, right? So, but knowing that we've got to let go and become the student, and that takes a huge, letting go is scary. Remember to look at the top? Huge amount of trust. And that trust is so important. And if either one of us breach that trust, we got a problem, right? Being vulnerable and trusting someone else will scare you. It's a big deal. If you are attached to your good paying job, you will be afraid to let go to try the work that promises more fulfillment. Right? And I think I've shared the story many times. And I recall the day when I walked into Tommy Holmes' office, and that was the president of Ingersoll Rand at the time. And when I resigned, man, you're talking about being criticized, but it's 1980. Right? Growth is a continuing process of going forward. It is not rigid. Now, this is what I want you. It's not rigid. It is flexible. It changes. To find and fulfill your purpose, you will be called to let go of where you are and go beyond. Not if. It's what you have to do. Of what must you let go to move closer to your purpose / your passion, right? A lot of words. So we moved to 92. And I designed this, what scares you about letting go? And you got the exercise here, left-hand side. What I need to let go of. And like I said, you have an opportunity. You can take as many pages that you need to do this, right? As many pages that you need. What I need to let go of. What is it? And then corresponding, I got the vertical line there, corresponding with that, my fear about letting go. When will you feel fear? Usually at moments when you're about to stretch yourself towards a new growth. Always. Most of you know that I love aviation. And a lot of you know that I haven't been doing a whole bunch of, as much as I'd like. But I remember just pushing the techniques and getting the, what I call the choreographing. And same with music. And that's the reason I love musicals. And I'm not, certainly don't know how to dance, but I am very appreciative of moves and techniques. So you got to have different signs of interpersonal frontier is associated with the uncertainty of learning new stuff, regardless of what it is. Okay? But it needs to be a sense of adventure as well. If there's the old adage, what's the most listened radio station in the nation? What's in it for me? WIFM, right? So if it's not something in it for you, you're not going to do it, right? If you're not feeling fear before you're doing something, it's not, you're not stretching yourself. So fear is normal. You know, a lot of you here has been 12 o'clock high. Remember that scene with Savage when he says, fear is normal. Let go of it. You're already dead, if you will, in that particular scene. And that's what he was talking about. You got to have it. It's normal. Embrace it. And that was a beautiful scene that demonstrated that in 12 o'clock high. Now, as we dig down onto this and we look at responding to your fears on page 93, right? How do you usually respond to your fears? Do you try to eliminate them? You see, pages here. Do you try to eliminate them, overcome them, deny them, avoid them, worship them, befriend them, research them, ignore them, talk about them, or take action? What do you do? Now it said instructions. Take a minute now and record 3 times in your life when you felt afraid. Situation 1. The fear and how you coped. Now this is where it gets really personal. You got to be, if you're writing in these spaces, you got to be writing truth. And everybody that's in the class know when I use that word truth, I'm not suggesting there's a lack of integrity with anybody in the class. I am not suggesting that at all. But I know truth. Sometimes our subconscious will not allow it to come to the surface, and we will try to mask it. That's the reason I decided when I was writing the book, I said the 5 masks, right? That we got to take off in order to be able to continue to grow, right? So you got an opportunity. Situation 1, 2, and 3 in fears, right? Now, on page 94, based on these 3 situations, I see that I tend to respond to my fear by doing what? This is big, okay? This is really big. Because by doing this and being honest with yourself, you're going to get some trends. These trends are going to help you continue to do that evaluation to be able to move you forward to growth, right? Now we take a deep breath, we shake off a lot of this stuff because it does get very intense. And we move to page 95. Then I wanted to befriend your fear. Make it our friend. Now, a lot of you know that I'm a Army Special Forces guy in the Vietnam era. And I remember one of our first drill instructors when we were training for our different weapon qualifications. And the breathing techniques that we would learn and to be able to control the adrenaline. And because fear releases all these endorphins. And if you fail to control that, and a lot of you know that I am a lot of you in the class know the DIS language and know me and either personally or remotely as we get to know each other through these classes and videos, etc. You know that I am a AAA personality, and tremendous amount of energy associated with fear. You have undoubtedly heard stories of people who showed superhuman strength when they were faced with fear. Where I'm going, we know this week has a story, and it's scientific, it's proven. Studies have shown that students who felt some fear about taking a test performed better than students who felt no fear. Fear is healthy. Now, we've had these situations, I know when I was in Vietnam, I've had this situation where, fear and learning how to manage it. And fear in those situations are normal. That's a healthy deal, right? Get to harness it, right? You see that word, harness it. Let fear be a catalyst for your growth. Do not allow it to be a barrier. You got to recognize it, get to know what it is, Fear can be transforming or it can be constricting. What I use, right? You decide which one it will be for you. You decide, not Jim White, not anyone else. You decide. If it's to be transforming, you need to identify what you're afraid of and then look behind it for the growth that is trying to break through. Let's say a lot of people's in the class that we're doing consulting work. We're trying to break through growth. We're trying to break down old habits. We're trying to create a new, and there is a fear associated with that. But we got to embrace it, right? If not, you need to call it quits because it won't work. Won't work. No way will it work. Right? It is transforming. You need to identify what you're afraid of and then look behind it for growth, right? Focus your attention on your goal and let go of where you are. Just to go for your life. To support this transformation, it is important to focus on what you want. Boy, you know this is a passion of mine of everybody that's in it. Most people have a hard time right now. What do you want? That's the reason we're doing this. And most people are afraid to write it down because especially in the Western civilization, and for our colleagues that's in the Middle East and things like that, we all have our different cultures and we respect all of it. But for a moment, I'm going to say in the Western civilization, in court, you cannot be convicted if you don't have any evidence, right? So I was reading a lot of people are afraid to commit to a direction and write it down or write goals, right? Your goal rather than your fear. What's your goal? What do you want? What do you want? It's a blank canvas, paint it. Then your goal rather than your fear will become your motivator. But your motivator, your goal. Use the energy that fear produces to take specific action steps that will bring you closer to your goal. Use it, control it, embrace it, harness it. Be excited about it. When that fear kicks up and you start tasting it and you recognize what it is, it means you're going into an area that's causing some concern. Now, I've had people over here say, well, Jim, how about if you're in a dangerous situation? Well, that's a fight or flight, and in all of those are similar, but they have different ways of dealing with it. But fear is fear. Regardless of what the situation, you got to know how to control it. And that's the reason things get escalated and mobs and out of fear, because nobody knows how to control it or harness it or recognize it. It just gets blown out of proportion. And I know that's been some of mine over the years. It's more of a short fuse, and everybody knows in this language the high D, quick anger, quick fuse. And that, to me, I got to really watch it. Now I use the paradox here. To eliminate fear, you must embrace it. Right? Now, page 96 probably challenged you a lot. The worksheet probably gave you a big challenge. If you have not completed that, you know the drill. List your fears about following your purpose, passion, in the left-hand column of the chart below. List them. In the center column, write down what you want, your goal. What is it you want? The coaching I do, unfortunately, people cannot tell me what they want. What do you want? I don't know. What is it you want? Give a stab at it. Write down what you want, your goal. In the third column, write down the action steps you should take to achieve your goal. And I gave an example. This is a big deal. And if you did not do this, stop. Go no further. Get this done. If you don't, you're not going to be happy with yourself next week or week 7. Okay? For many people, fear leads to being stuck. That's just completing, right? We've been talking about that. To settle for what is rather than what is possible. What's possible? You cannot find your purpose, much less fulfill it, without befriending your fears. Cannot. Now, you know, but now and then I move ahead because this is deep work here. Then I go to the next page in 97. I lay out what I call prescription for fear. Develop courage and take risks. Now, I used a quote here with the permission of Nancy Anderson, which is the author of Work with Passion. And I really enjoyed this. This is courage is not the absence of fear. So true. Rather, it is the ability to take action in the face of fear. So true. So true. There is a skill associated with befriending fear. There's a skill. Remember that? We talked about this talent and skill, what, Mass 2? Or Mass 1? And that skill is risk taken. Risk taken. Like any skill, you get better at it with practice. A skill is something you learn, right? With practice, 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 practice. How comfortable are you with risk taking? You have to learn to take a certain amount of risk. If you don't, you're going to stay stagnant forever. Complete the following questionnaire to find out for each question, answer yes or no, right? And on page 98, there's 18 questions that I give you there that once you, and I'm not going through all 18 questions, I'm just going to hit a few, and the risk questionnaire. And again, you got to be honest with yourself. Question 1. I don't take as many risks as others might because I know my limits. Yes or no? 2. I see others' approval before I take a risk. I believe it is better to be safe than sorry. You see how this is going, right? I need to feel in control of most situations. How'd you answer that? If some actions scare me, I stop doing it. I'm going to keep going. I take a risk only if there's nothing to lose. Yes or no? I feel uncomfortable with uncertainty. Yes or no? And so as we do those, we can spend weeks and months on each one of those questions. And I want you to know that. And as you look at that, as you complete that self-inventory, and there will be, like I said, as we build on each and every exercise and each and every page, it's setting that framework. It's getting you closer. It's putting you face to face with some of the fears and the issues that you are faced. I hate to make a mistake or do it wrong. I think things change too quickly. 13. I have trouble acting on what I believe. Sometimes that's not very popular. I have difficulty asserting myself. So how did you answer that? The more yes answers you have, the less of a risk taker you are. That's where I like to hide that right before you take a look at it. If you have more than 9 yeses, this section will help you increase your risk-taking behavior. So, if you've done this correctly, and if you answered it that way, and you got then I give you a strategy how to take more risk, and it's called risk-taking at the beginning of page 99. Now, I break down this risk-taking in three kinds. Non-risk takers, calculated risk takers, bold, impulsive risk takers. A lot of people have referred to me over the years, your risk, I'm calculated. And there are also some times where it's impulsive, but with due diligence, based on experience. The non-risk takers, let's take a look at these folks. These people like to play it safe in all situations. You're not going to get very far with that. You're going to stay stagnant. If you fall into this category, you answer the risk questionnaire with at least 12 yeses. Non-risk takers are unlikely to know their passion because to know it would demand that they take action. The word I chose to you was demand. Not knowing is much safer than knowing. If they do become aware of their passion, they complain about what they can't fulfill this or why they can't fulfill it. Complaining is safer than being responsible for their life. Remember, we started this. I said people want to be in control of their life, but they don't want to take responsibility for it. Chances are that you are a non-risk taker. You feel powerless over your life. You just give it away. The calculated risk takers. It's important to go through these, so bear with me. These people take planned risk. They consider the possible benefits as well as the probable consequences of an action. They weigh their alternatives before they act. They see mistakes as learning opportunities. A lot of you heard me say before, I want all the organizations that we do become a learning organization and a teaching organization. Mistakes are opportunities, not a failure. But I know a lot of you are thinking, I pause a little bit because I know a lot of you are thinking, you get 3 chances, and then other than that, you're not going to do the same thing over, right? They want to grow and stretch themselves. Calculated risk takers recognize that there are no guarantees and plan accordingly. There are no guarantees. Even as they go forward with a risk, they have a plan B. Yep, I have plan A, B, C, D, E, F in mind in the event that things don't go as they had hoped. They are not afraid to acknowledge when they made a mistake. Well, you've heard me say this, especially in the sales side, in the marketing side. The sooner you get the no's out of the way, the sooner you're going to get the yeses. So don't be afraid to get the no's out of the way. Because of their careful planning, they often do not perceive their action as a risk. Yeah, I fall in that category, and also fall in the next one too, and I've been known of that, but not as much anymore. Bold, impulsive risk takers. I'd rather say innovation. These people love the thrill of a risk. They like to live dangerously. They do not consider the downside of a risk. I like to push the envelope, but I do my homework as well. They wear blinders and see only the outcome they want. Often the important people in their lives felt uneasy with their actions. I've had that before. For impulse risk takers, a sense of danger is what gives them that satisfaction. Like I said, I love to push the envelope over the years, but not reckless. Not achieving a specific outcome. If you answer no to all of the questions in the risk questionnaire, you may be an impulse risk taker. Right? So what do we have here? Page 100, I've designed daily risk behavior. Now, before you take the big risk in life, you need to experience success with smaller risks. Get some wins, small steps. Take a moment now and record some of the risks you have taken in the past week. This is real time. This is real stuff. These do not need to be the major life-changing risks, right? Small stuff. Remember, you need to start small. You can't think of, if you can't think of 5 in the past week, at least 5 in the past month. So I want to see real stuff there. But again, it's got to be real, right? Then I asked you, did you have trouble making this list? Most people do, all right? To increase your risk-taking behavior, heed the following advice of them. Stretch yourself to be uncomfortable every day. Every day. Stretch yourself. Look at how you might do this. And I give some examples, some bullets here, and I say, driving your route to work. Say hello to people you meet on the street. Smile at strangers. Be forthcoming sooner. Apologize when you're wrong. Compliment people when they do something you like. Call someone you don't know but would like to meet and suggest getting together. Tell someone you love them. Simply, I love you. Say something silly. Risk being embarrassed. That's some things that you can do. Ask what a word means that someone uses language you don't understand. That's what I often say. I see a lot of people on platforms of speaking using what I call $50 words and I don't have a clue what they meant until I look it up in Webster's. Bottom of page 101. This is your great opportunity. Using this list as a starting point, write down at least 5 ways you can stretch yourself to be uncomfortable in the coming week. What are you going to do to push yourself? And I know we're Thanksgiving's coming up here, and that's often a time of, for a lot of people, holidays are stressful and can be depressing for a lot of folks. So maybe this is an opportunity there to think about some of the risks I will take. So you should lay that out, right? So on page 102, I gave you an action plan. Steps to improve your risk taking. So once again, it's important to recap this. Step 1, and this is really important. Start small. As your comfort level increases, so will the size of your risk. 2, collect as much information as possible about possible risks. 3, consult with others. Note that this is different than asking their approval. Now, we've talked about that in the past. 4, ask yourself, what is the best possible outcome? You know, a lot of you here, but I'm always talking about hard drive. I'm going through the day and I'm saying, what's happening, what's not happening in the course of the day. And this is what I teach my staff and our consultants. So we're always at what's happening, what's not happening. Ask yourself, what is the worst possible outcome? Ask yourself, how likely is it the worst possible outcome? Now, these 3 questions are really huge. 7, ask yourself, if the worst possible outcome occurred, what would I do? If you don't have an answer for this question, this may not be a risk you want to take. Ask yourself, step 8, what is the probable outcome of not taking a risk? Now, that's a big one. I see this more people they think not doing something is going to correct the problem. It's just going to make it deeper and deeper and deeper, especially in a leadership role. You're going to start eroding. The people are not going to trust your leadership. They're not going to believe in your direction. They're not going to believe in you. You will continue. And rest assured, everybody sees it. You may not think so, but they do. Evaluate the outcomes of the risk you take and celebrate your success. 10 steps. So, I'm going to check and see if there are any questions any place. any questions, any place. Bear with me as I do that. See all questions. See no questions. As I'm going to do something a little different this week, and I hope you bear with me. Let me try it. Let me see if I can. Just going to unmute the phones. If I can make that happen here. Give anybody an opportunity, like it's not a requirement.
All guests are now unmuted.
So if anybody has any comments or any questions you'd like to make, us great. As you know, it's not a requirement, but I always like to give you an opportunity. Once again, it's not a requirement. We're getting a routine to this class. So if anybody would like to make a comment or ask a question, you're free to do so. If not, we're going to say good night, and I'm going to wish everybody a great Thanksgiving. And we're going to be back in California tomorrow night, and we're going to have our class next Monday. So, all right, seeing none. Like I said, not a requirement. I see a lot of people. I do have a lot of questions in the queue. I will respond to those via email. Okay. So if there's nothing else, I'm going to say thank you to everybody. They have a question?
Oh, it's from Wendy, Tim.
Hi, Wendy.
On the page of 98,
Yes,
when
ma'am.
I did those risk questionnaires, it was much harder than I thought, and especially being the second time around, I really felt I could answer one way or the other, and I feel, aside from the question, very empowered and not fearful in ways that I used to feel fearful. So, do I need to delve much deeper to be a definite yes or a no? Because I kept thinking of different situations where I could play it one way or the other, sort of like in the calculated risk people.
Yeah. Wendy, I totally understand your question, and we know each other well enough to know, and I do understand it. To answer your question, no, you do not. When's the first time you went to the course? 2008, 2009, somewhere in that area?
I guess so. You've got a better memory chronologically than I do.
Well, it's been a lot of years, and I remember when we did that, it was different. So I don't have a concern, but I am glad to hear you acknowledge when you're looking at it from a different set of eyes, it was a little challenging. But no, it's just continue going forward. Don't think twice about it, because I know you're on the right track.
Oh, well, thank you.
You're on the, oh, and great article in the magazine. Great article. We want to make sure that we get that posted. So, Bob, thank you for sharing that, and we'll put it on the website.
Well, thanks for your help in figuring out how to share it.
Yeah, I know it's kind of challenging sometimes. So that's great, guys. So always wonderful, guys. Anything else? And if not, I'm going to say good night and wish everybody a great Thanksgiving. And we'll talk next Monday if there's nothing else. Okay.
Happy Thanksgiving to you.
Thank you so much, guys. Okay, guys, thank you so much, and I really appreciate all your hard work, and everybody have a safe week, and I'll talk to you next Monday.